Welcome back to another video with me, Jacob Modak, Jacob Modak Holistic Coaching. What we're going to talk about today is a little introduction to metabolic typing and intuitive eating. This is one of the biggest questions when it comes to holistic health and wellness in general. What do I eat? How much do I eat? How do I eat? And at the end of the day, there are certain principles. However, there are as many diets as there are people on the planet. And it's really important for us to actually get our heads around that, because if we don't, then all we do is fall into some kind of a dogma of it has to be this way, it has to be that way. Everything has its purpose and its place. However, we tend to find that we'll have a certain set point. We'll have a certain primary center of gravity in terms of what our body tends to like, what it tends to want more than other things. And this can also vary a lot depending on how much physical activity we're doing, the kind of physical activity we're doing, our genetic predisposition, the temperature of the ambience in our country, the change of the seasons, how much emotional stress we're under. All of these things can come in. And that's where the intuitive aspect comes in. It's important for us to be aware what our main kind of center of gravity is in terms of what we tend to like, what we tend to gravitate towards. But then we need to be intuitive and listen to our souls and let our souls and our bodies actually guide us to certain micro changes that need to happen on a day-to-day basis. So the two aspects of this short video are going to be I'm going to read something from Paul Chek's Primal Pattern Diet, uh, for lack of a better term, e-document that he made, because there's some really important points in this section here. And then there's a little breakdown of the three primary metabolic types. And we'll just talk a little bit about that. So I'm just going to go ahead and read this out. Each individual's genes carry the entire chain of their ancestral influences or programming, which emerged from environmental influences, the selective pressures of nature. Though we are all human beings with the same human genes or genotype, those of us with ancestors emergent in regions of the world where the ground freezes will naturally need to consume more animal flesh to maintain our energy source and stay alive than those emergent from regions progressively closer to the equator, who will have a larger variety of options due to the fact that plant and animal foods are more readily available year-round. Phenotype. Phenotypical expression can vary even among twins, not just from region to region. Those emergent from harsh desert regions often have less variety and must depend primarily on plant-based foods because of a scarcity of big game animals and animals with enough fat for optimal human metabolism, the only exception being nomads. Now, so that shows you, like, in terms of whether you come from a region of the world where the ground froze during the winter or not, plays a massive role as to how much of a kind of food your system will have adapted to deal with. So next, this is a really important point too. Early in the 20th century, Byron Robinson, MD, tested this theory by dissecting cadavers from regions of the world with significantly different environmental conditions and therefore foodstuffs. He discovered that the range of length among human entrons, the digestive tubes measured mouth to anus, ranged from 21 to 42 feet, a remarkable difference. Those with the longest entrons came from regions with high plant food intake, and those with the shortest entrons came from regions where animal flesh was more prevalent in the diet. His research showed that though they all had digestive systems, the selective pressures of nature changed the organism to favor adaptation as expressed through the phenotype. So what we have here is, like, if people come from a place in the world where it's hot, it tends to be a hotter climate, so there's more plant foods around, they have a longer entron length. They can ferment more protein out of fiber. And if they come from a colder region, the entron length is shorter, frankly. So they're more able to deal with more protein and fat. Keeping this in mind, a primal pattern diet is a diet that expresses the pattern of fats, proteins, and carbohydrates unique to the dominant region of your racial and ethnic ancestry. Though all humans have a genetic need for fats, proteins, and carbohydrates in some combination, phenotype expression will vary due to selective pressures over time in any given environment. For example, Weston A. Price showed very clearly in his book Nutrition and Physical Degeneration that macronutrient ratios could range from the Eskimo eating about 90% animal foods, 10% plant foods, to the inland Aboriginal eating the opposite ratio of about 90% plant foods, 10% animal foods. Yet people living in different regions with radically different food ratios were found to be very healthy worldwide. These people were eating according to their primal pattern diet. They were effectively meeting the needs of their genotype and developed a phenotype that allowed them to adapt to the unique circumstances of their specific racial and geographical environment. So, what we have here is like people just eating in terms of what is actually around them in abundance. They're not falling into some kind of dogma as to like it's this or that. They're eating what their body needs and based on what is around them. So, like going on to these three primary types now, we have protein type, mixed type, and carb type essentially. More protein type, more protein and fats. So protein and fats are food that come from a source that has eyes. Carbs are foods that come from a source that has no eyes, essentially. Mixed type is a balance between the two. Carb type, it's more no eyes foods. And this isn't actually fixed. People can float as well. Like, as I said, like based on temperature and overall stress. Also, spirituality too. People that may have more spiritual periods, they will kind of want to ascend a bit higher. They may feel like they don't want to eat as much protein or fat, which has a bit more of a grounding effect. However, it is very important to have a certain amount so that you have the building blocks for hormones and neurotransmitters, because all of that is made out of amino acids and fat and cholesterol. So it's not all about like, oh, if you want to be spiritual, just eat carbs and all the rest of it. But or just only eat plants, that's the only way, or it's only fat, it's only protein. There's many things that come in and need, and this is where the intuitive aspect comes in. So I'll give you an example with myself. I don't feel like I've ever really been like a full-on protein type. I've always felt best with a mixture, and the carbohydrates that I tend to do best on are potatoes, honestly. Sweet potatoes and normal potatoes. That I don't do well with gluten at all. In any gluten, sugar, and dairy, I just don't do well with them. However, I do need some protein and some fats and in my diet. So organ meats and eggs tend to be really good with me. Venison I really like as well. Not too much though. Um, Carb type, I've I feel like I'm a little bit more of that now. So usually if I'm lifting weights quite heavy, then I tend to be more of a mixed type. If I've got a lot of tissue breakdown, like if I have a week where I'm doing a lot of deadlifts or lifting weights quite a lot or training really hard, but it, if I've calmed things down, I feel like I'm a bit more of a carb type. And also when the temperature's really hot, I'm a bit more of a carb type. When it's a bit colder, I'm more of a mixed type. But I haven't really felt like I've been more of a protein type. I tend to fluctuate between mixed and carb. But again, this is also part important to connect to your soul and be intuitive about which one that you are. Because if you can't give yourself what you need, the world will tell you what you should need, and that might not actually be what you need. And then we come into the situation of being able to make up your own mind for yourself, which is more important than listen to everyone, but then make up your own mind and ask your own intuition whether this is right for you or not. And if you're not sure, try it and see. Don't allow over intellectualizing to become a fear of direct experience. That's what Carl Jung said. He said over intellectualization is a common cover up for fear of direct experience. So if you're not sure, try it. Try all protein, try mixed, try carb, and see how your body responds. What I would suggest being a little bit more dogmatic about is the quality of your food. All organic, and try to stay away from the inflammatory foods, gluten, sugar, and dairy. And if you're not sure what foods you're uh, that you that are inflammatory to you, then try it. And if your digestion does not improve and your energy does not improve, chances are it's not a good food for you. So that's my basic introduction to metabolic typing and intuitive eating. Most people find when they make these simple changes, all organic, cut the inflammatory foods out, they're eating right for their metabolic type, their digestion improves, their energy improves, their sleep improves, their stress comes down, their recovery from exercise goes up. The world just seems clearer. So, for those who are going through their own challenges, either with digestion, chronic pain, joint injuries, and inflammation in the body is going to mess those joints up too. So, joint pain could actually be a digestive issue related to not eating to your primal pattern type. So, for those people that are going through challenges and they would like to be helped through, send me a message. Drop me a message on Instagram at Jacob Modak, or send me an email, jacobmodakcoaching@gmail.com. I will be in touch with you. You can also check out my website, jacobmodakcoaching.com. There's also a form there where you can send an email and claim your free consultation call with me. I would love to work with you. I'd love to help you through the challenges that you're experiencing. Sometimes it's really helpful to have a coach to guide you through these things. And I've been through a lot of these challenges myself. Like, I've made these mistakes and dealt with the consequences. So I'm looking forward to working with you, and I hope this video provided a really good overview for you. So see you in the next one.